Many people are talking about replacing their entire teams with AI. And if you're a small business owner, you'll know that your staffing costs are one of the biggest expenses you have. So this can seem like a really attractive way to move forward. However, we're using a hybrid model, which is allowing us to adopt quicker, get better results, and keep our costs down. Listen in to find out more. So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools, and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success. One of the biggest challenges with any new technology comes out is the learning curve. Either you as the business owner or somebody in your team has to take it on board to get up to speed, to learn what is going on. Is this something that you should be applying in your business, and when would be the right time to do it? Which areas should you be applying it to? And in this case, of course, I'm talking about AI. Now, going all in with something AI may sound exciting. It may sound like the solution to all your problems. And in some cases, it could actually be. AI now, compared to even 2 years ago, is so accessible. It doesn't require huge amounts of technical expertise to get huge results. But of course, the more you can go deep onto it, the more technical you can get. At this point in history, that is still going to serve you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking at it. It just means that if you are prepared to go all in, you will get better results in certain areas. That said, and this is the big caveat, that can be a time drain, a massive hole that you jump into and don't come out for weeks. Trust me, that is exactly where I am right now. The opportunities and possibilities are massive, but so is that learning curve that I mentioned before. And that is putting off a lot of people. It's making a lot of people not use it in the way that could benefit you far, far quicker than you ever think possible without you having to become a technical genius. Now, with that said, there's a right way and a wrong way to use AI. Many people use it like a search engine. And yeah, it is a pretty damn good search engine, but that is the wrong way to use it if you want to get serious advice or serious work done in your business. So by this, I mean, if you want to get the same work done repeatedly by the AI or augmented by the AI, you need to give it more than simply a prompt. You need to be thinking about how can I standardize the way it is getting the information it needs to complete this task so that every single time I get it to do that task, it's drawing on that same information. Just like if you were training a human. You would train them up, you'd give them reference documents, and then you would get them to follow those guidelines and use your reference documents, whether it's the brand guidelines or your culture or your policies, and then they'll be able to do the work and get a result that you actually want. AI is no different. You can ask it to do something and it will try and guess the best way to do it. But the more information you give it, the more context, the more background, the more templates, the more examples, the more guidance in general, the better the results are going to be, and the more consistent they will be from chat thread to chat thread. You can imagine if you have an employee, you get them, you train them, they do the work really consistently, and then they leave, and a new employee comes in, and you've got to start all over again. That person is not going to be able to do it in the same way the first person did, unless they've documented, the first person documented how they did it, provided the templates, provided the examples, and then this person was trained up to follow all that stuff. That is exactly the same that the problem with AI. People expect it to just work out the box. And like with a human, AI needs guidance. Treating it just like a search bar, treating it just like a chat thread is going to get you a fraction of the way there, 50% of the way there, if that. However, if you treat it like a new hire, in that analogy I just gave about giving it context examples, operation manuals, video training, transcripts, whatever you've got available, treat exactly the same way you would with as an employee, and that is how they're going to get amazing results. I talked about this actually in a podcast not so long ago when I talked about actually letting the AI run and doing its work and then giving it feedback just like a human. And this is sort of the same, but we're starting at the beginning. Like, yes, we still need the AI to go away, to make mistakes, and us to give it feedback. So like literally educate it on why this didn't go according to plan. Like, what do you expect versus what you got? And then the AI will be able to adjust and actually make improvements. Now, how those improvements are made will depend on what AI app you're using. So for example, I've been using ChatGPT for quite a long time, but recently I've moved over to Claude. Claude, in my opinion, is leagues ahead of ChatGPT right at this moment in time. I'm recording this in April 2026. That may change overnight. AI is moving so quickly. There's nothing to say that the next thing won't come out that'll absolutely wipe the floor with Claude Code, or Claude, I should say. But right now, Claude to me is just leagues ahead of pretty much everything else. There are a few different levels of Claude. I want to just go through those. If you're not familiar with Claude, you may have heard some other things like Perplexity and ChatGPT and stuff. Now, I would recommend you go and have a go for different types of activities and try different ones. But that said, I'm now dedicated to learning Claude and mastering it and only using other tools if Claude fails. It's the same way I approach pretty much any app in my business. I want to master one app to find out what its abilities are, to find out where its limitations are. And only when I reach those limitations will I go and search for something else. I don't want to end up with duplicate apps that could do the same thing and lots of overlap, and trying to run and pay for multiple subscriptions at the same time, but stuff that ultimately can be done in one place. That's why I was stuck with ChatGPT for so long. But when the evidence got so compelling, when so many people that I trust and respect and look up to, when my coach, my automation coach, started talking about and celebrating how amazing Claude Code was, that prompted me to actually go and have a deeper look. So as I said, there's a few different ways you can interact with Claude. You can use just like a chat interface, just like when you're just basically chatting with any AI. You can use something called projects, which is similar to a project or even a GPT in GPT in ChatGPT. Or you can use something called Claude Code, which is sort of the next level down. And you can also interact with these in different ways. So with Claude Code, for example, you can use a desktop app, or you can use a command line if you're a bit of a developer stroke programmer, where you get even more power and control. What makes Claude, in my opinion, though, stand out is not the different ways you interact with it. Is there's certain things you can do, which I'm sure all the other AI tools are going to catch up with very soon. But things like adding skills. So you can design basically like a skill set, like an expertise, just like you're training up or hiring in a top graphic designer or a top, actually graphic design probably wasn't the best example because Claude isn't that good at graphic design. It would use, say, Nano Banana to actually create awesome images. But other than that, so copywriting or sales or marketing or business advice or whatever it is, you can create these skills. Or they could be very specific to your business, or a specific skill about something that happens in your business. Like one of my clients built a skill for designing the menus for his restaurants. I mean, that's a skill that someone has to be trained at. So he creates what's called a skill in Claude Code to be able to actually then use that across his projects. It's not just Claude Code, you can use this in the different types of Claude as well. But once you've actually designed these skills and you can give them access to your file storage, to your whatever software apps you're using, it can then go away and not only do that work, but actually interact with things like your web browser, interact with your task management tools, create documents, update documents, do all this automatically without your input once you set up the correct permissions. And this means that you can basically create almost or fully autonomous agents which are using these skills, which you can either create yourself or download for free off places like GitHub. And you can basically then build an army of agents that are skilled up way, way higher than we could possibly afford for most of our small business owners, the level of competence, I mean. And therefore we can have these amazing agents helping us to do stuff on a daily basis. However, we still need humans involved, in my opinion, to be utilizing these things. And this is where the combination, the hybrid model, takes its own. I've seen so many business owners now getting really sucked in and doing it in isolation though, forgetting that a team exists around them. So if we can use our team and actually bring them into this path that we're on and get them involved in AI and understanding how to use this stuff for creating, and ideally start actually building out or installing new skills to actually enhance what they're doing, that is, I think, where we're going to see a massive right now increase in your own productivity in your business or your business's productivity. Rather than waiting for you to master AI and replace everybody with AI, do the opposite. Keep everybody or everyone who's interested in AI and get them to be trained up. Keep that human element in there, that ability to actually make judgments, to actually review things and to to actually fill in the gaps where maybe you got something wrong when you explained it to ChatGPT. The human can be there to just make sure, sense check it before you end up publishing it on social media and embarrassing yourself. That's the kind of thing that humans can do really, really well, which takes longer, and it's longer and harder to actually sort of hard code that in, or to actually develop that into some of the AI tools or the automations, especially going back in the day. So humans augmented by AI, in my opinion, is the way that we absolutely elevate our small businesses without expanding the costs, but also without losing all the humans from our business either. So ideally, we don't want to be forced to hire more and more expensive people. We can now augment our trusted, loyal people with some amazing AI agents to do, such high level work that was never ever possible before at a far lower rate, without having to figure that all out yourself as the business owner. So bring your team in, get them geared up with the AI, get them understanding it, start getting to them, start building skills, like stuff, replacing themselves in the business so that they are being augmented. Their work is being done primarily by the AI, and they are just basically sense checking it. They're driving the development of it. They're driving the improvements. The same way that I used to build automations, the same way I've worked with ChatGPT for our social media, is now being basically just 10x. It's been up leveled to something that is going to be absolutely remarkable in the very near future. So a quick practical takeaway. This is something you can start doing today and actually make your first steps to becoming an AI augmented business. That is to pick one role or process in your business and speak to the person who's currently doing that. Ask them to set up a project if you're using or Claude, or a GPT if you're using ChatGPT, and upload any SOPs, any video transcripts, any templates, any examples, any training content, any description around that particular task. So once it's in there, ask Claude or ask the AI to actually analyze and how could this be done better, and which parts of this could you do without my involvement. And that's key. If you're using something like Claude, it will start installing skills, asking you to install connections, asking it to basically skill itself up so it can do more and more of the stuff. And in the process, your virtual assistants or your staff members are getting trained up on how they can start building and using Claude. And it will send them down winding paths of learning and education that may take a lot of time, but ultimately, over the first couple of weeks, you should see them actually reducing that time spent in it and starting producing stuff really, really quickly once they get their head around how to actually set up and use Claude or whatever it is you're using. If you're not already using Claude, I would recommend giving it a go, especially if you're new to AI in general. Claude, I think, is just an easier way in, and it's got really, really powerful stuff that's available sort of out the box, so to speak, but you don't have to be put off by that because it's got really simple interfaces to get you started. So set up a project in Claude, upload all the stuff, get your staff member to do that, and then go from there. And just be aware that the first iteration is not going to be perfect. This is going to be a feedback. You're going to get it to do something. You're going to give it some feedback and ask it how to update itself. If you're using Claude Code, it can actually even do the updates for you. If you're using Claude Projects, then you might have to actually copy and paste and update things as you go. So that's it. In my opinion, the future is not AI or humans. The future is AI augmented by humans. So we get far more done at a far higher level than we could ever think was possible before, without having to blow our budgets on amazing consultants and stuff. We can get this in-house with our existing teams at a fraction of the cost, simply by subscribing and learning how to master some of the amazing AI platforms out there. Currently, I'm using Claude. It's what I'm recommending. I'm moving off ChatGPT. That may have changed by the time you listen to it. It's currently April 2026. So please do check out any newer episodes on this topic to ensure you're getting the best advice of the time. And that's it. I hope you found that useful. If you have, please do share this with your friends, colleagues, loved ones, anyone you know who runs a business who will find it interesting to learn how to augment their existing teams with AI. And please do hit subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Thank you very much indeed.